So, this is the Fates rundown, and I thought I'd do this a little differently because there's plenty of information out there if you're trying to learn the basics. I am not going to go over the basics. Instead, what I'm going to do is try to cover the things that are a little weird, a lot of the frequently asked questions, things like that, as well as maybe talk about kind of where we are with the various traits and things like that moving forward. So I figure I'll go by traits first, then champions, and then items. This might take a while. I might be talking a long time. If so, I apologize. But here we go. Okay, Adept. Basically, Adept is a 2/3/4. The only way to get 4 is if you have a Chosen. Slows everyone's attack speed by 50% for 2/3/5. What I'll say right now is this is an okay trade at 3. It's probably not worth running at 2. There's probably a world where this gets changed a bit in the long-term future. But in the short term, if you're running Shen and Yone and Aurelia, it's a good thing to run. QS does stop it. So if you have a problem with Adept, you can get a QS against it. It does not stack with Frozen Heart. It is the same debuff as Frozen Heart. So you can't stack them. I think that's about it. Oh, and Jin does get his attack speed lowered by Adept. So, yeah. Assassin. Assassin, they gain a bunch of crit damage, crit chance. They jump in the back line. Ezreal. Ezreal also does not stack. It's all considered the same debuff. So the Ezreal spell, Frozen Heart, and Adept are all the same debuff. They don't stack. Cool. Assassin. They gain a bunch of crit chance. They gain a bunch of crit damage. IE has been changed so that now it's not a waste on this. So that's good. IE is pretty good here. Bramble does prevent the crits from the auto attacks and the spells. If you want the innate of your spells can critically strike, you do need at least 2 assassin. So you can't just get that with 1 assassin, but as soon as you have 2 assassin, their spells can crit, and their spells crit with the same crit rate they have, so it's like 50% chance at 2 kind of thing. Jeweled Gauntlet and this don't stack per se, but Jeweled Gauntlet is still 50% more crit damage and still some AP, so it's still good to run there. Otherwise assassins are pretty straightforward. Assassins jump a little bit slower than Shade, so Shades get first priority on the good spots if you're running both. It's just a little bit quicker. So then I think that's about it on the trait. Brawler, pretty straightforward. Brawler is a ton of health. So, yep, it's a ton of health. There's now an 8 Brawler, which honestly is way more than I thought we'd ever ship. But if you can get a Brawler Chosen and get 8 Brawler, it's pretty good. Cool. Dazzler. Dazzler's reduced the attack damage by 50%. What this literally means is the AD on the champion. That's it. So basically, if you're looking at Yasuo and he's got 150 AD and he gets hit by a dazzled spell, that goes down to 75. That's it. So if there's any weird multipliers or static damage, like anything like that, it's not being affected. It is literally just takes their AD number and lowers it by 50%. So, and yes, like for example, let's say Lux stuns them for 2 seconds, then they're only getting dazzled for the extra 2 seconds after that. So, but yeah, if you need to lower some AD, Dazzle's the way to go. Cool. Duelist. Duelists innately get to move faster. So they just walk around the map faster. That way they can chase their targets. So, hooray. And then basically the way it works is every time they auto attack, they gain a stack of attack speed. That means, and again, we're going to go over this a bunch of times, but auto attack means they literally begin to auto attack. Hurricane is not an auto attack. So Hurricane does not make this stack faster. They must start generating an auto attack. And then it stacks up to 8 stacks. So for example, even at 2, at max stacks, you're getting almost 100% attack speed. At 8, you're getting close to 500% attack speed. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so as long as you're running 2 Duelists, they basically have a very powerful built-in Rage Blade. So it's a very powerful trait. Cool. Someone just asked a good question. It's kind of an Aphelios question, but Aphelios' turrets count as generating an auto attack. So yes, Aphelios turrets would generate. And again, anything that counts as generating an auto attack, which I think only Aphelios is the weird one. No one else has like weird auto attack generations. So Sharpshooter is not considered an auto attack. So Sharpshooter does not proc Duelist quicker. Sharpshooter is on hits, not generating an auto attack. All right, Emperor, 2 soldiers. The 2 soldiers are literally meat shields. We'll talk about this more at Azir, but they're just 2 meat shields. That's it. You place them, they don't do anything, but they're considered legitimate targets, so if people can target them, they will. Really good placement of soldiers can buy you a lot of time. I had a game with Raditz last night where like his cane was stuck on both my soldiers. The health on the soldiers, someone asked, is I believe 1,000? It's either 950 or 1,000 base at 1 star. And they scale up just like normal. They disappear as soon as Azir goes away. And when I say off the map, like during combat, they'll stay in. But yeah, cool. Hunter. This is a complicated one. So let me go over all the crazy cases with Hunter. Every few seconds, the Hunters will attack the lowest enemy, dealing increased damage. This attack is considered an auto attack. So for example, things like Duelist, Ginsu's, etc., it will generate them. It's considered a bonus auto attack. So it's like every 3 seconds, regardless of their auto attack timer, they will generate another auto attack. Here's the catch though. It's basically like on a clock. So it's like 29, 28, 27, time to proc. If they are stunned or CC'd, they will not proc. They will skip it completely. And they will have to wait for the next proc. So it's basically like at 27, 24, 21 seconds, the Hunters will try to do a bonus auto attack, if they can. And if they can, it'll be at the lowest health enemy. This ignores range. You do not have to worry about range. This does not reset their auto attacks timer. It's literally just a bonus attack out of nowhere. This attack can be dodged. This attack can miss if you're blinded. All of that stuff. It is considered a normal auto attack. So it just is a normal auto attack with a bonus multiplier that happens. So it can crit. It can do all that stuff. It's like they just launched an auto attack. And here's the crazy thing. Aphelios, all of his turrets are considered Aphelios. So all of Aphelios' turrets also proc Hunter. So, for example, let's say you're running Aphelios with 4 Hunter and he has 3 turrets down. The Aphelios, all 3 turrets, and the other 2 Hunters in the group will all shoot a bonus auto attack. That is how that currently works. So, because again, and we'll talk about this at Aphelios, but Aphelios' turrets are considered Aphelios. But yeah. So there you go. Keeper. Keeper, I've seen a lot of confusion around, but let's talk about this. Keepers at the start of the combat grant themselves and all nearby allies a shield for 8 seconds. This shield is 50% stronger on keepers. So what that means is if Riven is touching Kindred, and you have 4 keeper, Kindred gets a 250 shield. Cool. If Riven and Kennen are touching Kindred, you get a 500 shield. This stacks. If Kennen, Riven, and Jarvan are touching Kindred, you get a 750 shield. Cool. Pretty easy. If Riven and Kennen are touching each other, Riven grants a 375 shield, because again, it's 50% stronger, to Kennen, and Kennen grants a 375% shield to Riven. Imagine if you had a triangle of Riven, Kennen, Jarvan, and they're all touching each other. That is a 750 shield on all 3 of them. One of the tactics I highly recommend for keepers is making sure the keepers are touching each other, because the value they get from that shield is bigger. I think often it is a trap. A lot of people will try to run Keeper and group everything up. I don't think you necessarily have to do that. Just consider using the Keepers themselves to buff each other. Sorry, yes. Keepers also... You're right. Sorry. Thank you, chat. Keepers do also grant them shields to themselves. So, for example, let's say you were running 2 Keeper, Riven and Kennen, and they're not touching. They would each get a 200 shield. If they are touching, then they would each get a 600 shield. So, it's pretty multiplicative, and yeah, Keepers are good. So, and yeah, the other thing to call out is Elise is a Cultist Keeper. Elise grants shields. And we'll talk about this a bit at Cultist, but those shields actually count as damage to summon Galio, so that can be pretty good. So, sorry, yes, it's 300 shield alone. You're right, not 200. Thank you, chat. Yep. Because, again, it's 50% stronger on themselves. So, cool. Mage. Mages cast twice, so they always cast twice if you're running 3 Mage. If you're not running 3 Mage, they don't cast twice. Now, a lot of the times what happens here that gets confusing is people are like, hey, my spell power went down when I run 3 Mage. That is intended. It takes your normal spell power, after items, after everything, and then takes it to 70%. So let's say, for example, you're at 100, and you put a death cap on. That's 170. And then, I can't do this in my head, off pressure. Trying to do it on stream. Real simple, though. 170 times 0.7. If you have a death cap in 3 Mage, you're at 119 spell power. So, but yeah, so that's how that works. It happens. It's the last part of the calculation. So same with Vygar, who's stacking. And then 6 Mage, they cast twice, but they actually get 110. So again, going back to that death cap, if you have death cap in 6 Mage, you actually have 187 spell power. Sweet. And then same with 9 Mage. So, yeah. As far as spells go, the only interesting ones are Vygar. Whenever he double casts, it will always go towards a different target so that you don't waste one. Nami's will also always go towards a different one. Lulu always goes towards a different one. Lilia always goes towards a different one. So, yeah. Sweet. Mystic. Not a lot to talk about. Mystics are all really good units. They grant magic resist to your team. Magic resist is very good this set. A lot of magic resist. Does Mage double cast proc Ludens twice? Yes, it does. It is considered 2 separate spell casts. So anytime a Mage double casts, it's considered 2 separate spell casts. Does Annie's shield double in size? Yes, it does. So, cool. All right, Mystics, like I said, very powerful. I'll be honest with you, 4 might see a small nerf. We'll see. But 4 Mystics, good. Magic resist, yay. Shade. Shade is a tricky one. So if you have at least 2 Shade, that doesn't work if you don't have 2 Shade. Every 3rd auto attack, they become untargetable. What that means is they will drop aggro, and anyone who had them targeted will switch targets. And for about 0.25 seconds, they're technically invulnerable right now due to some other issues. So hypothetically, if you time it just right, you can actually dodge spells with that. It's basically Vein Tumble, yes. And then in addition, once they do that, their next auto attack generates some bonus magic damage. Now, let's be clear. This is, again, on every 3rd auto attack. Hurricane does not count. If you somehow changed any properties, like it's literally just every 3rd attack, do the magic damage. This magic damage does not scale with AP or anything like that. It is just the flat magic damage, period. You can't affect it. So no matter what you do, no matter what items you have, it'll do this much after magic resist, of course. The thing to note is if you attack faster, you can get more procs. So, sweet. That's why Shade likes attack speed. Okay, Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter is another one that's a little tricky. Basically, if you have 2 Sharpshooter, what happens is they hit their target, and then the bolt will go to a nearby target. Now, I could try to draw you the graph, but it's really complicated. But basically, let me get my paint window open. you're going to laugh at this, but let's say you are a Vayne here, and you are hitting a target here. So, okay, my Vayne hits here, and it's time for a Sharpshooter bolt. The first thing it's going to do is look for a target in about this range. Imagine that's 1 hex, and see if there's anyone there. If there isn't, that expands to something like this, and then if there isn't, it expands to something like this. And that's kind of how it works. So basically, if you hit this person and there's somebody here and somebody here, the bolt's always going to go that way. That's kind of a really rough version of how Sharpshooter bolts pick their targets. But the general idea is it aims for behind first and then spreads out. They do have infinite range. So if they're literally like all the way across the map, you can see a Nidalee Spear go like all the way this way, hit somebody, and then bounce all the way back. So it gets pretty crazy. But that's generally how it works. And then they get hit with reduced damage. And this reduced damage stacks. So let's say, for example, you are running 4... Let's say if you're running 4 Sharpshooter, and you do 100 damage. Cool. Then the first Ricochet will do 50 damage, and then the second Ricochet will do 25 damage. So each hit does get reduced. It's not like each Ricochet is equal. And so it's the same thing with 6 Sharpshooter. So you have that same 100 damage again, and again, right now it's tuned, which will get nerfed, but it'll be 70 damage for the first bounce, 49 damage for the second bounce, and 34 damage for the third bounce. Again, this is on auto attack, so only auto attacks do this. Hurricane is not an auto attack, and I'm going to say this a lot today. Hurricane is not an auto attack, so Hurricanes do not Sharpshooter Ricochet. Only auto attacks, Sharpshooter Ricochet, and spells. So, and the only, like, so basically, like, Teemo's spell, for example, will blind Nidalee Spell. And Nidalee Spell is interesting because what'll happen is, let's say you throw a Nidalee Spear and it goes the max distance, because Nidalee Spear amplifies with distance. It'll hit, then the next one will get scaled down, but it'll also be traveling and do even more damage. So Nidalee can do pretty cool stuff there. Again, Teemo will blind, because Sharpshooters apply on hits. So Sharpshooter can blind, Jinx can stun. If you're running Jinx with 6 Sharpshooter, you will stun 4 targets, plus whoever's near them for the AoE. If you're running Teemo with 6 Sharpshooter, you will blind 4 targets. Vayne, whoops, oh shit, how do I get back? F11, back, F11, great. Yeah, Vayne will also apply her ring. Everything applies. Jhin 4th Shot also works. So all of this stuff works. It works great. Again, they apply on hits. Shojin is an on hit. So, for example, if you're running Teemo and you auto attack for 10 mana, and then it bounces 3 times, you will generate an extra 20 mana. You can get 30 mana per auto attack with Shojin. So, good stuff there. Yeah. Cool. Vanguard. Armor. They get armor. Yay. Pretty straightforward. Origins. Okay, Cultist. So the way Cultist works is at the beginning of the round, it takes the HP of your entire team. So let's say, for simplification here, you're running Elise, Twisted Fate, and Pike, and they all have exactly 1,000 health. They don't, but let's say they did. You would have 3,000 health. When your team has taken 40% of that in damage, so 40% of that, 1,200. When your team has taken 1,200 damage, Galio will come in and do his stuff. Now, the nice thing is the shields work here. So, like, if you're running Keeper Cultist, that works really well because you can make yourself take more damage earlier. But again, the general idea here is once you take 40% damage of your entire team's health, armor has nothing to do with it. It's literally just damage taken and health. That's it. So it's real simple there. So then what happens is you get, based on 3, 6, or 9, different levels of Galio. The 3-level Galio, all he has is his entrance, which is a 1 hex radius, stuns for 1.5 seconds, does some damage. And whenever Galio crits, he slams down and does AoE magic damage whenever he has a crit. Would stacking Locket work? Yes, stacking Locket would also work. At 6 Galio... Oh, by the way, this HP is, I believe, 1800. So he's always in Giant Slayer range, too. Galio's always a Giant Slayer. At 6, that jumps up to, I believe right now it's tuned at 4,000. So he has 4,000 health. AD, this was 120, and this is 400. So he has a lot of AD. And then at 6, he gains a new move. At 6, when his mana is maxed, he does the AoE Taunt. The AoE Taunt, when he is casting it, he takes half damage, and then at the end of it, bursts for a flat amount of damage. So he gets this AoE Taunt, and it's basically a damage shield. His slam is now increased to 2 hex radius, and the stun is 2 seconds. And then at 9, the entrance radius is increased to 4 seconds. The stun is still, I believe, 2 seconds or 2.5. I think it's 2. His AD goes up to 1200, so he has a lot of AD. And all of his spell numbers basically increased. He still has the taunt. Excuse me. He still has the taunt. He still gets to do everything else when he crits. But yeah, he's just got a lot of health. I think his health is 6,666. So he's a big boy. So yeah. You can't put items on Cultist. His attack speed is 0.65. So he is a slow attacker. Armor and MR are 35. Yeah. So yeah, good stuff. Okay. Divine. Divine, upon attacking 6 times or dropping below 50% health, you start glowing, you become Divine, and you take 25% reduced damage. And what this 25% is as at the end of the equation. So let's say you took 100 damage, and then you reduced it to 50 through armor and MR, then you would take 25% off that. So it's at the end of the equation. And you start dealing bonus true damage for the rest of combat. This bonus true damage is pre-mitigation. So let's say, for example, you are running 8 Divine, and you hit somebody for 1,000 damage, but they have 1,000 armor. That 1,000 armor would reduce the 1,000 damage down to like 20 damage, but you would still get 1,000 bonus true damage. Because again, the bonus true damage is pre-mitigation. So it'll always do exactly what you'd expect. Other than that, nothing really crazy to talk about. Items do not proc Divine. So like, let's say you're running Static Shiv, you're not going to get a bunch of bonus damage. Yeah, I think that's about it. Dusk. Dusk is pretty straightforward. At 2, all your allies gain 20% spell power. At 4, your Dusk champions gain an additional 50%, so now your Dusk champions have 70%, and everyone else has 20. And then at 6, your whole team has 50, and your Dusk has 125. Pretty straightforward. Spell power. Yay! Elderwood. Every 2 seconds, Elderwood gain bonus stats. Armor, MR, AD, and spell power. This goes up to 5 stacks. So it basically, at 5 stacks, they're maxed. So at 10 seconds into combat, they have 125 armor and 50 AD and spell power. Sweet. One thing to call out is that Elderwood champions... Elderwood champions like health, things like Warmogs, because they're already getting the armor and MR from here. So, yeah. And like I said, This is one of the more dangerous ones from a balance perspective as well, because when you have both armor and MR, you're hard to deal with. So, yeah. Cool. Someone saying, he said 125, isn't it 145? No, it's 50% for all, plus 75% for Dusk, 125. Okay, Enlightened. So Enlightened says, Enlightened generate more mana. And I've seen a lot of confusion around Enlightened. What Enlightened does is they generate more mana. Period. Everything that would generate mana generates mana. So, for example, when let's say you're running 6, this makes it easy for calculations. Let's say you're running 6 Enlightened, and you auto-attack. Instead of 10 mana, you gain 20 mana. Sweet. Let's say you have a Shojin. Instead of 5 mana, you gain 10 mana. Sweet. Let's say you're taking damage. Let's say you took 100 damage. Currently, the formula for take mana to damage is 0.06 times the damage taken. So 0.06 times 100, you would generate 6 mana. But if you're running 6 Chosen, you're going to generate 12 mana. Cool. So everything generates more mana. This is why I believe Enlightened tanks are really good. Because remember, damage taken is pre-mitigation. So if you're a very tanky character, you can take a lot of damage, gain a lot of mana, and then cast your spell a lot. This is why I think tanky Morgana is a really good build. The only exception here, and this is the one that does cause confusion, is blue buff. Blue buff says set your mana to 20, not gain 20 mana. So, blue buff does not work with Enlightened. So, everything else though, any time you would generate mana in any way, you get that going. Great. Cool. Exile. If Exile has no adjacent allies at the start of the combat, they gain a shield equal to 50% of their maximum health. I see a lot of people screw this up with Yone especially. Don't forget to put them by themselves so they gain their shield. And if you have both of them, you gain 80% lifesteal. This is lifesteal. This is the equivalent of like 2.5 or 2 bloodthirsters. Because blood, yeah. This is not spell vamp. This is just lifesteal, and we'll cover each one. So really good on Yasuo. Okay on Yone, not great on Yone. So. Okay, Fortune. Let's talk about Fortune. This is going to be a big one. A lot of questions about Fortune. Here's the way Fortune works. Where'd my paint window go? There it is. Okay. The way Fortune works, if you have 3 Fortune, every time you win, you're going to get some loot. Cool. So if you win, like you just put in 3 Fortune, and you win, you're going to get somewhere between 1 and 3 gold. That's super readable. You're going to get somewhere between 1 and 3 gold. Cool. Hooray! Everyone's happy. Let's say you still have 3 Fortune in, but you lose. There's basically this invisible counter that just went up. This invisible counter is now at 1. Okay? You just lost again with 3 Fortune in. This invisible counter is now at 2. Okay? Let's say you take 3 Fortune out. This counter will stay at 2. Okay? This counter is still at 2. You can win, you can lose, you can do whatever. It doesn't matter. This counter is still at 2. You put 3 Fortune back in. You lose again. The counter goes up. Counter is now 3. Great. When you finally win, it goes, okay, you won. Time to give you that much bonus stuff. Okay? The bigger this counter got, the bigger the payoff. And the way it works is it scales. So remember how I said it was 1 to 3 gold for the first one? Well, the second one is like 2 to 4 gold. The third one is like 3 to 5, and it keeps increasing in value. So the more losses you can get, the more valuable it is per turn. For example, I'm only going to show you one here. I'm going to show you one table. This is the level 5 table. So if you got that counter to 5, remember we were talking about that counter. You lost 5 times, you got that counter to 5, and then you won. Good job. Here is what can possibly drop for you. Stop. There we go. And yes, I know it's a little hard for you to see. I will blow this up here in a second. Okay. This is what can drop at 5. So for example, the things that you could have gotten were 23 gold, which if you do the math, that's about 4.6 gold per round. You could get 2 4 costs and 2 items. You could get 1 item and 16 gold. You could get 1 Nico, 1 item, and 8 gold. Or you could get 2 items and 8 gold. The general EV, and what you can, this number here is actually how much it scaled value-wise compared to the previous table. So this is just one example. But again, there's a table, and that's what your payout will be. So, and the other thing about 3 fortune is the highest this counter goes is 9. If you get this counter to 9, stop losing. Getting any higher doesn't help. Okay? So getting this counter to 10, getting this counter to 11, getting this counter to 12 stops being useful. Okay? So, 3 fortune should be super clear. Now, if you're asking, hey, this stuff should be in game, ideally, yes. Ideally, this counter would be somewhere that you can see it, and hopefully we can get that in at some point. But that's how it works. Okay? Now, that is 3 fortune. Hopefully 3 fortune is very clear. 3 fortune works like this no matter what. Even if you're running 6 fortune, it still works like this. Nothing changed. Okay? 6 fortune has nothing to do with 3 fortune. Okay? So 3 fortune keeps doing its own thing, keeps working the same way, nothing changed. Okay? 6 fortune says, okay, cool, you keep doing your 3 fortune thing, and in addition, if you win, I'm going to give you another orb, completely separate loot table. Okay? So every time you win with 6 fortune, you get a completely separate loot table. This loot table is about 9 to 10 gold in value. Okay? There's a couple rare things in there, not going to spoil it all. But the general idea is every time you win with 6 fortune, you get like 9 to 10 gold worth of stuff. Period. In addition to the 3 fortune stuff going on. Okay? That's it. So hopefully that answers all the questions about fortune. Everyone's asking, oh, reveal the tables. Nope. Not revealing the tables. Not right now. So, but yeah, so again, 3, every time you lose, the counter goes up. When you win, you get stuff. 6, when you win, you get good stuff. So if you're just watching that last game when I played 6 fortune, every time I won was getting like an item or a 5 cost or a Nico. Good stuff. So, cool. Okay. Moonlight. Moonlight. The start of combat, the lowest level Moonlight Champion stars up until end of combat. That means they're only starred up for 1 combat. They go back to normal at the end of the combat. If you have a 2-star Silas, a 2-star Lysandra, and a 1-star Aphelios, and you have all the items on Silas, Aphelios is chosen. If there is a tie, Silas, Lysandra, Aphelios, all 2-star, and you have the items on Silas, then Silas will become 3-star. And if they're all 3-star, then one will become a 4-star. Also, if you have all your items on Silas, everyone will mock you because you should have them on Aphelios because Aphelios is overpowered right now. But that's generally how this works. The scaling is exactly the same. So when you scale up from 3-star to 4-star, it's another 1.8x HP and AD. That's it. And it's your spell scaler. That's it. That's what a 4-star is. And then the other thing I'll just say is that right now, this trait's overpowered. So Cool. Okay, Ninja. Ninja, by the way, I should have said this with Exile also, but Ninja and Exile are one of the two traits that cannot be chosen. So you cannot get a chosen Ninja. Ninja says if you have exactly one Ninja, so if you're running Shen or Zed or Kennen or Akali, you get 50 AD and spell power on that champion. Sweet. If you're running two Ninjas, I'm running Shen and Zed, you get nothing. Nothing. If you're running 4, then you get 120 AD and 120 spell power. So, sweet. Ninjas can be a fun build. Cool. Hooray! Okay, Spirit. Spirit's a tricky one. Get a lot of questions about Spirit. Let's say you're running 4 Spirit, and you are running all of these champions. Sweet. The way Spirit works is the first time, and only the first time, a Spirit casts their spell, your entire team gains attack speed equal to 90% of the mana cost. So, for example, I believe Kindred's mana is 35. 90% of that is 31.5. The first time Kindred casts her spell, your team gains 31.5% attack speed. The second time Kindred casts her spell, you get nothing. Nothing changed. The third time Kindred casts her spell, nothing. Nothing changed. Okay? The first time Teemo casts a spell, you get attack speed. The first time Yuumi casts her spell, you get attack speed. Ahri is the biggest one, because Ahri's mana, I think, is 90 right now. So when Ahri finally casts her spell, you gain 81% attack speed on your whole team. That's a lot. That is how Spirit works. But again, only once, period. Nothing resets it. Nothing changes it. So that's it. So basically, if you have 4 Spirit and they all cast, you're probably gaining somewhere close to like 180% attack speed. Sweet. This is why Spirit Shade works so well. Remember how I said Shade likes attack speed? Sweet. It is once per unit and it's once per unit. So again, like they each can give the Spirit buff to their team. Does the attack speed stay for the whole round? Yes, it does. It is for the rest of the round, period. So that's it. Cool. Spirit, attack speed. Basically, think of it like Chrono, right? Where it's like, once they finally cast, give your team Chrono buff for a while. Oh, that's a good point. Chosen. So Chosen, Yuumi, and Teemo have their mana cost reduced because that's their Chosen buff. That does lower their Spirit attack speed amount. I believe Yuumi goes from 45 to 30. And so, yeah, she would give less attack speed. That's true. The other thing is, does Shroud affect it? No, Shroud does not. Shroud does not increase it. So, because Shroud is considered like a debuff, and it uses their base mana. So, sorry, 40 to 30, not 45 to 30. So, being a Chosen does give you slightly less attack speed, but obviously the trade-off is you'll cast sooner. So, good stuff. Okay, Boss. When the boss first drops to 40% health, he removes himself to combat and start doing sit-ups. Let's be clear on this. Even, let's say somebody hit Set for 10,000 damage. He would get reduced to 1 health, and he would go work out. You cannot one-shot Set, with the exception being Lee Sin. So Set will always go work out. Then when he starts working out, he does 15%, every second he starts trying to gain some health back. If the rest of his team is dead, he comes back in. And keep in mind, each sit-up he does gains him attack speed as well. So one of the funnier things, too, is if you actually get lower than 40%, you have the potential for more attack speed. Because you did more sit-ups to get to full. This is why a common strategy with Set is put him in the front, let him get targeted, let him die, let him go work out while you buy him time. Because then if he comes back at full health, he converts all of his basic attack and spell damage to true damage. So from then on, he's just doing true damage. So, again, he cannot be one-shot. He will always work out, the exception being Lee Sin. So, And yeah, the attack, once he comes back, he's just good to go. As far as GA priority or boss, admittedly off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I am pretty sure it is boss takes priority first. I believe it is boss first, then he comes back, then GA triggers. I believe is the case. So, yeah. No one else can one-shot him, only Lee Sin. Okay, cool. Kayn, Tormented. Basically, this one's really easy. You play for 3 rounds, and then at the end of those 3 rounds, you get an orb. Inside that orb is a blue Kayn item and a red Kayn item. If you get to choose which color Kayn you want. They each have a different benefit, which we'll talk about. This will apply to all Kayns. So if you have 2 Kayns, they will all be red, for example. If you have 1 Kayn, turn him red, then buy another one. He'll be red. If you sell them all, you can reset it. So, I believe is the case. If you sell your Kayns, you can buy a new Kayn and redo it. So, okay. And then the last one is Warlord. And I get a lot of questions about this one too, so I'm going to try to make this one really clear. Warlords have a trait bonus of HP and spell power that is increased each time they've won a combat. So here's what I want you to imagine. It's the very first round. You throw in a Garen. I'm Garen. Rawr. You win the PvE round. Okay? So invisibly, Garen now has a medal. Okay? Garen won the PvE round. Good job. He has a medal. This is without 3 Warlord. You're just running Garen. Okay? Garen has a medal. Then, in addition, you get Nidalee. Sweet. You win the next PvE round. Garen now has 2 medals. Nidalee has 1 medal. Next up, you get Teemo. Cool. You're at 1-4. You've got Teemo. You win the PvE round. Garen has a medal. Nidalee has a medal. Teemo has a medal. Teemo has an invisible medal. Okay? Now you're at 2-1. You start fighting. You win. You don't have Warlord bonus, so nothing's happening. Garen has a medal. Nidalee has a medal. Teemo has a medal. Yes, you will notice I'm using Teemo because he is not a Warlord champion. I am doing this on purpose. Now, let's say you just leveled to 4 and you get in Vi. Cool. You now have 3 Warlord. What this means is Garen has 200 HP plus 40% of that. So he has another 80 HP. Nidalee has 200 HP plus 30% of that. So 260. The medals increase the Warlord bonus. Okay? Now, let's say through some miracle of science, that exact same turn, you also got a Warlord spat and put it on Teemo. Guess what? He's already at 2 stacks of Warlord. Okay? What this means is any PvE round you can run Warlord. If there's even a chance you're going to run Warlord, you probably should. And yeah, this also applies to non-Warlord champions. So that's why Warlord spat, like you can put a Warlord spat on somebody and like, bam, they're good to go. So that is the easiest way to think about it. If you sell them, they go away. They're applied to the champion. So if you sell them all, they definitely lose their stacks. And again, 5 is the max, so you win the next round. They all get their medal. Great. And then, yeah, let's say for some reason you're an idiot and you sell your Garen and then you buy a new Garen. Well, he has 0 stacks. That was stupid. You shouldn't have done it. And then, obviously, the next question is going to be, I have a Teemo with 3 medals and a Teemo with 2 medals, and I combine them into 2-star. They have the highest stack count. So, yeah, like let's say I then buy another Teemo, and then I win a round and I'm running 2 Teemos for some random reason, and then I get a 3rd Teemo and merge them. They have 3 medals now. That's it. So anytime they merge, they take the highest. Period. That's it. Okay? They never go away. Should be fairly straightforward. If I put it on the bench and bring it back, will it recount? No, it's always attached. Those medals never go away unless you sell them. So, cool. That's Warlord. We did it. Okay, that is the traits. Now we do champions. And what time is it? How long did it take us to do that? Oh, only 37 minutes. Great. Let's go in order of cost. I'm going to try to go relatively quick and talk about anything that matters. Diana, fairly straightforward, casts her spell. She is mono-locked during her spell. So you can't make her go infinite. Because of that, you don't generally want a bunch of tanky items on her. She can gain health from it, though. Gunblade Diana can do pretty well. But otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. It's a shield. It does damage. It can crit if you have 2 assassin. Yeah. But again, while she is shielded with her spell, she is mono-locked and cannot gain more mana. Cool. Elise. When she transforms, gains a % of health. This stacks with Warmogs. So, good stuff. If you want to put Warmogs on, this gets bigger. Any HP items make this even bigger. So, you can get Elise with a lot of health. If you want a high health target, Elise is your buddy. Sweet. Other than that, nothing crazy to report. Yeah. Fiora. Fiora, basically, whenever she does her parry, she is immune to just about everything. I'm pretty sure it's everything. So she can block damage, she can block CC. There is a brief window of time between when she finishes the parry and when she actually stuns, where she can take damage and can be interrupted. It's very brief. It's like 0.15 seconds. You can still, like, even if you stun her, though, yeah, it does interrupt the spell. So, very tough. Yep, good times. Elise in overtime says plus 160. That's because her healing scales with AP. And at overtime, you gain more AP. That's why. Garen. Only interesting thing to report on Garen is that during his spell, he takes 60%. It's like, I think it's 60%. 80% less magic damage. So that's good. What is the keyboard command for back? I don't know what it is. I have to do this. Anyway, that's Garen. Good stuff there. Alt plus left arrow. Great. Thank you. Cool. Lysandra. The way Lysandra's spell works is she hits the primary target. If the primary target dies or is gotten rid of, it'll still shatter at that point, but she hits the primary target for that damage, and then everything behind it in a radius for half the damage. Pretty decent Morello user for that reason. But even if she misses, the thing will still shatter. So, good. Maokai. Nothing crazy here. He does his attack, which applies that same Frozen Heart debuff. Same thing we mentioned earlier. Does not stack with Frozen Heart. Does not stack with Adept. But otherwise, it's a pretty basic spell. Nami, Bubble, CC. Pretty straightforward. If she's a mage, she casts twice. She is one of the better users of Mage because she will cast 2 bubbles. The CC is not reduced by lower AP, so that's good. Right now, still a little weak. How does Nami choose her targets? It is closest. She chooses the 2 closest targets. So, Nidalee throws a spear always at farthest. It is always at farthest target, very much like Caitlyn from the last set, and does damage. The further it goes, the more damage it does. Sweet. Tom Kench. Tom Kench is a little tricky, but the way Tom Kench works is he has a bunch of HP and armor and MR. Let's say Tom Kench is going to take 500 damage. So I've got 500 damage, and let's say I have a bunch of armor on him. I've got 200 armor on him. So 100 divided by 300 means we're taking only 33% damage. So that 500 is now 166. Then Tahm Kench's ability at the end of all this calculation says minus that by 25. So Tahm Kench takes that much. Basically, it happens at the end of the calculation, post-mitigation. So there you go. What if he's divine? Okay, so it would be 166 times the 25% less from divine, and then minus the 25. So that's how it would work. Good stuff. Twisted Fate. He throws cards. They do damage. Woo! Vayne shoots damage every... Basically, Vayne's spell is an on-hit passive. It says, if I hit you on hit, put a ring around you. If you have 3 rings, take a bunch of true damage. This true damage scales with AP, and it is considered an on-hit, which means you can use Hurricane on Vayne. You can use Sharpshooter on Vayne. So, Vayne does benefit from those things. Cool. Wukong. Okay, Wukong is one of the... Vayne damage is not reduced by Sharpshooter? No, because Vayne is not doing damage, right? Vayne says, I'm a Sharpshooter attack, do my normal Sharpshooter stuff. On hit, apply one of these rings. So, Vayne's circle is not reduced by Sharpshooter. What about Mage Vayne? Does nothing. Don't do Mage Vayne. You just wasted a Mage Cap. Okay, Wukong. The thing to talk about with Wukong is he is one of the champions who have a bit of a confusing spell. Wukong's spell, he slams the target, dealing a percentage of his AD as physical damage and stuns them for a few seconds. He does not work with Gunblade. He works with Bloodthirster. So he's one of the champions that's a little weird like that. Do not put a Gunblade on Wukong. Bad times. So, there you go. Yasuo, same thing. Do not put a Gunblade on Yasuo. Bad times. It doesn't do anything. Why Vayne works with Gunblade? Because it's her spell doing the damage. So again, Yasuo, same thing. His spell is considered a physical damage. Don't put Morello. It's not a spell. It's like a physical attack. But yeah. Otherwise, Yasuo, really good champion. Again, likes AD. Things like that. Pretty straightforward. Because this is considered a physical attack, i.e. makes it crit, you don't need a jeweled gauntlet on him. Basically, anything I say, anytime I call out one of these champions, like, don't put a jeweled gauntlet on Wukong. Don't put a Gunblade on Wukong. Put an IE. Put a Bloodthirster. Same thing with Yasuo. So, and then, yeah, Yasuo, by the way, Exile, does work with Warmogs, so if you want to Warmogs your Exile, you'll get a bigger Exile shield. Sweet. Don't RFC Yasuo. That makes him a little weird. Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay, 2 costs. Why does Rabadon work with Wukong? Because Rabadon works with everyone. Everyone has AP scalers. Okay, Annie. Annie casts her spell, gets a shield, does damage, good times. Annie, unlike set 3 though, Annie is monolocked during her spell. So you can't go infinite with her. This is one of the reasons why Gunblade is pretty good on Annie, because you can gain the health back and go infinite. But while she has her shield on herself, she will not gain more mana. So it's the only other interesting thing to call out about her. And if she is Mage, she casts twice, and those shields stack. So, sweet. Aphelios. Okay. Aphelios, as of now, we'll see how long this lasts, but as of now, Aphelios summons a turret. The turret, for all intents and purposes, is Aphelios. Let me be clear on what that means. If a turret attacks, it generates 10 mana. If a turret attacks, it is considered an auto attack, which means it procs Hurricane, Ginsu's, Shiv, Shojin. So, yeah. Turrets are Aphelios. Turrets have the exact same AD as Aphelios. Turrets are untargetable currently. You cannot target them. They can't do damage to them. They die when Aphelios dies, but they can keep attacking regardless of Aphelios' status effects. So, if he's blinded, the turrets can keep attacking. If he's in the GA state, the turrets can keep attacking. If he is stunned, the turrets can keep attacking. So, that is how he currently works. Do turrets generate lifesteal for Aphelios? Yes. Speaking of which, Aphelios is another one of those champs. Do not put Gunblade on. Do not put Ludens on. Do not put Jeweled Gauntlet on. Doesn't do anything. But, yes, if you haven't seen it yet, some people are running Bloodthirster Aphelios. And turrets will proc the life drain and give it to Aphelios. Do turrets give Gensu stacks? Yes, because again, they're considered Aphelios auto-attacking. So, everything, they're literally considered like clones of Aphelios. So, that is how Aphelios works for now. Good items on him. GA, Shojin, Ginsu, Shiv, IE. There's billions of them. Just lots of items on him. He's a good champion right now. I don't think he'll quite go live in the state he's in now, but that's a different conversation. Okay, Hecarim. Hecarim is a pretty straightforward one. He casts a spell. During this, for 3 seconds, enemies take this much damage, and he heals this much for each enemy hit. So if you can get Hecarim surrounded by 7 enemies, or 6 enemies, he will heal a lot, because he's doing a lot of damage. You want Hecarim surrounded when he casts a spell. Sweet. If you mage cap Hecarim, the way it works is he casts once, then at the end of the 3 seconds, he casts again. So it's like 6 seconds. Not great, but if you were wondering. Sweet. Janna. Janna will cast shields on 2, 3, 4 allies, shielding them for a bit, and increasing their attack damage. Sweet. Hooray, attack damage. Chosen Janna is at 37.5 mana. That's one of the things that can get confusing, because we do use decimals behind the scenes. But blue buff Janna, good times. Yeah. Jarvan. Nothing crazy to talk about with Jarvan. There was a sound. Jarvan strikes the furthest target. Really good at dealing with backline. You can get some backline stun. But otherwise, nothing too crazy with Jarvan to talk about. Does damage, knocks them up, stunning them. Jax. Is Hecarim monolocked? Yes. Hecarim is monolocked during the 3 seconds. Jax casts a spell, channels for, I believe it's 1.5 seconds. During that time, he is monolocked. During that time, he will dodge everything. Dodge is what he'll do. Not so he's like, he'd still be hit by spells, can still be hit by everything else. He's just 100% dodge. RFC goes through it. And then at the end of it, he will cast an AoE stun. So that's about it. Jax equals Shen set 3, sure. Lulu. Lulu, the way she does is she chooses an ally and makes them big, granting them bonus health. That bonus health lasts for a long time. I believe it's actually forever. It does not stack. So, for example, let's say you have 1,000 HP ally. She casts on them. It's now 1600 HP. And then let's say for some reason they're at full health and it's time to cast again. They'll still be at 1600. It does not stack. Why does Mage not work on Janna? It does. If she runs out of allies to shield, it might not, but it does. And then, yeah, she stuns people around them. If she has Mage, she will choose 2 different targets to give the buff to. So, yep, scales with AP, but again, does not stack. Pike, nothing crazy to report here. Dashes, furthest enemy, creates an afterimage, stuns everyone it passes through, does damage. At 3-star stuns for 4 seconds, so it can be a very long stun. Silas, nothing crazy to report. Hits an enemy. He does give them the Mana Reave effect, which is increase the next cast by 33%. That happens for 1 spell, so then that wears off, just like Mana Reaver did in the last one. But yeah. Does Janna AD buff stack? No. A character is either shielded by Janna or not shielded by Janna. That's it. Teemo. Teemo is a cool one. But Teemo has one thing that you should be aware of that's really important here. So Teemo's spell does damage over the blind duration. So let's say you have a 3-star Teemo with 6 Sharpshooter, and he just hit 5 targets. 4 targets. Each of those 4 targets now has the blind on them, which for the next 5 seconds will keep them blind and deal damage. If you reapply it, it just resets the timer. So, for example, if you have a Teemo who's like constantly shooting the spell, you're kind of wasting damage because it isn't doing the extra damage. Like, it's just resetting the timer. It's one of the reasons why I tried to present it as damage per second, because damage per second, it's like 80, 100, 140. Yeah, they're definitely perma-blinded, but you're not actually doing more damage to them. So, something to think about. Can dots crit? Yes, dots can crit. So Teemo doesn't do extra damage when he gets higher. I mean, it just said 80, 100, 140. So he definitely does more damage. But, yeah. So that's one of the reasons why you want to be careful there. Thresh. Thresh throws a shield at the lowest health ally and shielding everyone around them. So Thresh is one of the few champions that if you're going to run a group up comp, Thresh is really good because he'll shield many, many people. And because he's Dusk, scales with AP, you can get some big numbers. Good times. Vi. Something people sleep on with Vi that I don't think they realize is Vi reduces the armor of whoever she hits by 50, 75%, 100%. 3-star Vi is basically turning your physical attacks into true damage. So a lot of people don't realize that about Vi. So if you're running into Vanguards, throw a Vi in your comp. Good times. Someone asked, is Thresh monolocked? No, Thresh is not monolocked. Thresh could potentially go infinite on himself. So yeah, Vi, good times. And then Zed, our boy Zed. Zed. So Zed is a ninja, Zed is a shade, gets lots of stuff. Every third attack, Zed deals bonus magic damage, which is a really high number right now, in addition to his shade bonus magic damage. And he steals the AD. One of the funnier interactions, if you ever have a Zed against a Cultist 9 Galio, you can steal 600 AD in a single auto attack. But yeah, so Zed can be a fun one, and he can get stacking pretty high. And what's really great is, especially because you're doing shade and you're dropping the aggro, he's usually the last one alive. So yeah, it's good times. Let's see here. Yeah, anyway, that's Zed. Good times. Mage Zed does nothing. Mage Zed is a waste. Zed's another champion. Although, actually, Zed you could technically put Gunblade on, but you'd be an idiot, because the Gunblade will proc off this. You will heal for 33% of this, but not his auto attacks or anything else. So I wouldn't do that. Same with Jeweled Gauntlet. You'll get this much crit. So, because he technically has a spell. Okay, I think that's it for 2 costs. 3 costs. Akali. Akali. She throws daggers. They do damage. Woo! One thing to note about Akali is she has 20 mana. So she's really good with blue buff. Woo! She does work with RFC this set, though. So can do very well with RFC. Should consider RFC. Good times. Evelyn. Evelyn needs a couple bug fixes that we'll get out. But generally, the idea here is Evelyn attacks, and then she ults. And if the target is below half health, that ult will hit like a truck. Gunblade Evelyn can do some good stuff, because basically whenever the target is below half health, she's probably going to kill them and do a lot of damage. She kind of doesn't interact well with Shade, though. Her base attack speed's pretty low. She's usually more the Cultist and Shade activator. So, and no, she does not work with RFC. She does not work well with Mage Cap either. So some things to consider there. Aurelia. Okay, Aurelia has one big call out I need to call out right now. There is a tooltip error that says applying on hit effects. It doesn't do this. Ignore this. It does not apply on hit effects, okay? So she launches a barrage of blades in front of her, dealing magic damage and disarming them. She's very similar to Kassadin. She disarms them. The range is pretty far. If you put her on the front line, you can hit the back line perfectly if you do it just right. But yeah, she's a good champion. If you ever want to do an Aurelia carry build, make her very tanky, and she'll just spam her spell with Enlightened going. Yeah, good stuff. Does it count as an auto attack? No, it's a spell. It's literally just a spell. She does work with Gunblade, etc., etc. Okay. Jinx. Jinx is a little bit of a tricky one to explain with Sharpshooter, but let's be clear. In fact, we're even going to change the wording to make it more clear, because it's not an attack. It is a spell. So she autos, then at 50 mana, she casts a spell, not an auto attack, okay? It is a spell. Jinx's spell fires a rocket at her target for 1 point, stunning them for 1.5 seconds and dealing magic damage to the adjacent enemies. Okay? It is a spell. It is not an attack. Cool. If you think of it as a spell, it's not that confusing. Okay, Callista. Oh god, you're all going to hate me on this one. The real talk on Callista is we have work to do on Callista. Okay? We have a lot of work to do. The way it works right now is a lot of items don't have the benefit that you might think they do. Okay? The way it works is if I auto attack somebody 10 times or whatever, I put spears in them. If the spears would do enough damage after magic resist calculations and shields, no, not shields, just magic resist calculation, then she will pull them out and cast the spell, which will kill them. If you have, for example, Jeweled Gauntlet, which will make the spell crit, it does not take that into consideration. So what'll happen is it'll go, I need to get up to 10 spears, get 10 spears, pull them out, and then that number can crit, but like it's not really helping you. We have a lot of work to do on this. Like, she's a good tank buster. She's a really good tank shredder. If you see an invincible like Tom Kench, this is the character that'll kill it. But we have a lot of work to do on clarifying this, and yeah, which items affect it. Like Giant Slayer, I don't think affects it. Yeah, it's a gross mess. So, trying to calculate this, I think this is going to be one of the projects we'll have to do. She does scale with AP, so she's very good with Death Cap. Very good with Death Cap. In fact, probably too good with Death Cap, if I'm going to be honest. Because what happens is this 6% becomes as high as, like, I've seen someone say they got it to 23%. And then she pulls the spear very, very quickly and kills them. The other thing I'll say is that she does work with Hurricane. She works really well with Hurricane. So the TLDR on this champion is she's confusing. I will work on with the team getting this more cleared up. But the general idea is she's a tank buster. She's a very good tank buster. A little fragile. Has a 1.0 base attack speed, which is the highest in the game. So she's actually even a decent Shiv user. But if you're looking for the best build, it's probably something with some Duelists, some Ginsus, and some AP, and some Hurricanes. I've also seen 3 Hurricane Callista be really good. So, yeah, she's a strong champ. But if you're going to ask for every specific interaction, the real answer is we have a lot of cleanup to do here. It's not perfect. What happens with Mage Spat? Nothing. Don't put Mage Spat on her. You can put Gunblade on her. She will gain from the pull. That does work. Again, you can put Jeweled Gauntlet, but it's a waste. So, yeah. Cool. Katarina. Pretty straightforward. Dives in the back when she reaches mana, spins around anything within 2 hexes. Although it's interesting, this isn't really ever relevant, but she can only actually hit 6 enemies. So if she's surrounded by 8 enemies, a few of them might live. But she does so much damage anyway that it's not really relevant. And she also technically Grievous Wounds them, but she does so much damage. Basically, she's a giant spin-to-win nuke. Put her in the back line, she blows shit up. But if you ever are like, hey, she didn't kill everyone around her, that's why, right there. Kennen. Kennen does damage and stuns things. Basically goes proc, 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 and if they take 3 procs, they get stunned. Sweet. Good Morello user. Good stuff. Kindred. Kindred is a hunter. Has a 35 mana, so very low mana, good for blue buff. Jumps around, does a lot of spell damage. You kind of have to think of her as a caster. Single target nuke. So yeah, actually items like this are pretty good. Death Cap, blue buff, stuff like that. Jeweled Gauntlet. The weird thing with Kindred is because she's also a hunter, you want AD on her. So one of the best builds on her is actually IE Jeweled Gauntlet blue buff. That way you're getting the biggest hunter procs and the biggest spell procs. But yeah, it's basically set 2 Kindred. Lux. Pretty straightforward. Very similar to set 3 Lux. Throws her bolt. It still says Sphere of Darkness. Now it says Sphere of Light in game. Towards the farthest enemy. Enemies hit, take damage, and get stunned. Woo! Pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy here. It's a stun. Nunu. Okay. A lot of confusion on how Nunu works, but let me explain how Nunu works, because this came up when someone was asking about the boss, too. Okay? Nunu does not instant kill anything. Period. That's not how Nunu works. The way Nunu works is when he reaches full mana, he tries to bite the target. That bite will deal 650 damage. If the target has less health than him, it will deal an additional 50% and be true damage. So, really quickly, we can see 650 times 1.5. Now it'll deal 975 damage and be true damage. Cool. It's just damage. That's it. We have a fun little animation where if that damage kills, they eat them, and it's cute, but it's just damage, okay? So, for example, the boss, it's just damage. As I said, the boss can't be killed. He'll leave. Great. Does it scale with Warmog? No, it's just damage. The only thing that scales with Warmogs here is just making sure that he has more health. And let's be clear, this is total HP, not percent, right? So if Nunu has 3,000 health and is attacking a target with 2,900 health, you get this bonus trigger. But 2,900 health, it won't eat him. So it's just damage. That's it. It is current total health. Current total health. So if your Nunu is down to 500 health, not going to be eating things. Okay? That's it. Vygar. Vygar shoots bolts at the lowest health targets. Yep, lowest health. And if he's a mage, second lowest health. Doing a burst of enemy, dealing magic damage. And if they kill Vygar, he gains spell power permanently. Sweet. Pretty straightforward. The spell power... Oh, no. So the spell power thing, because here's the questions people always ask. Spell power, does it get reset if I sell it? Yup. Don't sell the damn thing. Kind of like the medals. It is attached to that unit of Vygar. If I have 2 Vygars and they independently stack and they merge, what happens? I believe right now it takes the highest value. Okay? So if you have one that has gained 18 stacks and one that has gained 12 stacks and then you merge them, I think you're at 18 stacks. We are probably going to double check and change it, not right at live, but later, where it'll just be the merge, if you really wanted to go that route, but shouldn't really be something you're trying to do anyway. It's not that efficient. And hopefully someday we can get a counter in there as well, so it can be clear and you can see the number go up, kind of like Deathblade. But yeah. So like if you were running a Vygar for 4 stages, build a bunch of stacks, and then get a Chosen, like, yeah, you kind of in a weird situation. Okay, Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao is basically what he does is he sweeps around doing a bunch of AD damage. And right now, I believe he is a broken one. We wanted him to be one of those champions that you build BT on, not Gunblade. but we didn't get to it. So I believe right now Gunblade is the item you'd want on him to benefit from his spell. Just keep that in mind. He is a Gunblade user, even though it's physical damage. It's confusing, we know. We'll probably change in a future patch, but that's how it works. Anyone he hits with a spell that survives is now challenged, okay? Challenged enemies take increased damage from Xin Zhao, so Xin Zhao gets to like finish them off. And as long as there is one challenged target alive, Xin Zhao takes 85% less damage from all other sources. Okay? So, for example, if you build Xin Zhao as a burst mage, and he kills everything nearby, well, nothing's challenged, and he's no longer tanky. But if you build Xin Zhao kind of like they're recommending, very tanky, he can challenge a bunch of enemies, and then everything else hitting him will, do very little damage. He becomes kind of like the ultimate tank. Is he monolocked during that? Yes. As long as there is one enemy challenged, he's monolocked. So, that's how Xin Zhao works. And then finally, Yuumi. Yuumi is interesting because her healing is % missing health. Okay? So what that means is, let's say you are at half health, 750 out of 1500, and you are a 2-star Yuumi with no AP. You will heal them for half of that half. You will heal them for 50% of their missing health. So her heal scales a lot based on the target. So like, let's say you're running 8 Brawler and Yuumi. She's going to be healing a lot. Yuumi is really good. Chosen Yuumi is, even non-chosen Yuumi, but chosen Yuumi is blue buff like godly, because she gets down to 30 mana. And the crazy thing is, with like a single death cap, you can get this number to close to 100%. And so Yuumi will jump around and heal everyone to full health. She's a very powerful champion. If you are sleeping on chosen Yuumi, you are mistaken. So she can do a lot. Mage Yuumi will just cast twice. It's no big deal. She'll just heal, 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 heal. I think Mage Yuumi is a waste because her mana pool is so low. So. Okay, now we start getting to the complicated ones. What items don't work on Yuumi? They all work. She doesn't do damage, so anything damage related is pointless. But you can't heals can't crit, so you can't run Jeweled Gauntlet. But yeah. Okay, Aatrox. Aatrox is a tank, cultist, simple stuff. His spell basically does 2 Blitzcrank pulls to the 2 farthest units. Pulls them in, and then slams them down. Can shields crit? No. Aatrox is really good for backline access. Sweet. Ahri. She's big, casts a big Spirit Bomb. It does a lot of damage. Probably not enough. She probably needs buffed. But Ahri does a lot of damage. Sweet. Mage Aatrox doesn't work. Mage Aatrox does work. He pulls, slams, pulls, slams. So Mage Aatrox definitely works. It's pretty fun, actually. Ashe. Ashe is a very strong champion that a lot of people are building wrong. In fact, even this is wrong. So Ashe's spell, she's only got 30 mana, so she very quickly casts her spell. During her spell, she's monolocked. And it says, for 5 seconds, you gain 75% attack speed, and you fire 5 attacks that do 50% damage. What this actually means is it's very confusing. Every time you're supposed to auto-attack, it's still just one auto-attack, okay? It's just one auto-attack. It's one proc of Shiv, or one proc of Ginsu, one proc of Shiv. It's just one auto-attack. But, which is confusing, I know, but it is just one auto-attack. But the way to look at it is it's one auto-attack that's dealing 2.5x damage, okay? So, let's say you have an Ashe with 100 AD, autos for 100, autos for 100, enters this state, she'll shoot 5 bolts for 50 damage, equaling 250 damage. Very powerful. She scales insanely well with AD. Insanely well with AD. The way you want to play her is probably IE, Deathblade, Last Whisper. Play her as an AD champion. She will do a lot of damage. This is also important because guess what else scales with AD? Hunter procs. Hunter proc scale with AD. Build her as an AD champion. If you make the mistake, a lot of people are trying, myself included, of like double Shiv, it's not that good. It's just not enough damage. And then people are asking, how does Mage Ash work? I believe the way Mage Ash works is this number is doubled. So if you're running Mage Ash, you get 150% attack speed instead of 75% attack speed. Not really worth, in my opinion. But yeah, so again, she's a really strong AD champion. She's a little fragile, so you got to protect her. But if you can protect her, she will crank through things. So, yeah. Okay, Cassiopeia. A lot of people are sleeping on Cassiopeia. She is really, really good. Is Ash monolocked? Yeah. Yeah, she is. Okay. Cassiopeia, a lot of people are missing something that's really important here. Cassiopeia fires a cone of magic damage towards their target, dealing magic damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. It's a very long stun, okay? Frontlining her is very good. But here's the part people aren't really figuring out right now. It causes them to take increased damage, and this number scales with AP, okay? So, when Cassiopeia stuns them, she stuns them for 3 seconds, deals 400 damage, and during that 3 seconds, they take extra damage. She is so good. She is amazing. And the reason you want to frontline her is because if she is standing on the front line, her spell will reach the back line. It is possible to reach the back line. It is really good. So, if anything, what you actually want to do, like, these items are probably really good recommendations here. It's like Morello GA Ionic. That's a good recommendation. So, damage from all sources. Yes. All sources. So, very good. Very good. How many hexes? Basically, it's a big cone. It's a big cone. But again, the max range of that cone can hit the back line. So, do not blue buff her. Her mana pool is it's a big mana pool. She usually only casts once a fight. Maybe twice if you're lucky. But very good champion. Don't sleep on that damage amp, though. And that's the thing. A lot of people look at the damage meters and they're like, she didn't do that much damage, ignoring the fact that they made everyone else do 10 to 30% more damage. So, who does she target? Her auto attack target. Okay, Jhin. Jhin is a little bit weaker and a little bit stronger this set. Jhin still does 4th shot. Every 4th shot hits like a goddamn truck. Still converts attack speed into attack damage. So that's all true. But why is he stronger? Well, Darkstar and Sniper definitely gave Jhin bigger numbers. Right? If you're looking for that big number that was like, oh my god, it did 100,000 damage. Guess what? Jhin is not going to look as pretty. But instead of single targeting somebody for 100,000 damage, what Jhin can do is hit 4 targets for 30,000 damage. And Jhin can blow up multiple targets now with Sharpshooter. If anyone in chat is saying Jhin is bad right now, you're insane, and you're playing him wrong. Jhin is a god. He's hard to get because he's a 4-cost, but he's actually a god. He's really good, and every time he 4th shots, he will delete 2 or 3 people. Very good champion right now, being slept on by a lot of people. And it's really funny because for the start of PBE, everyone was like, Vanguards are bad. Vanguards aren't bad because Jhin is real good right now. So don't sleep on him. Okay, Morgana. Morgana's an interesting one. Was OP for a while in PBE. Is finally balanced. But here's the way she works. She casts her spell. It's a big-ass freaking spell. Does a lot of AoE damage. Really good with Morello. Because it'll apply Morello to basically everybody. Everyone who's hit by the spell gets the Ionic debuff. Does not stack with Ionic. It's the same debuff. It's like, I am magic resist shredded. And she heals based on the damage she does. What this means is if you can get her to do a bunch of damage, she'll heal a bunch, true. But what I've found really good success with is tanky Morgana. Morello, Bramble, Dragonclaw, Morgana frontline with some Enlightened. She'll cast a bunch. She'll heal a bunch. She'll do a bunch of damage. She's really good. Her only weakness is that the damage takes a lot of time. So if the enemy team is like bursty, you can lose. But she's a very good 4-cost champion. Finely balanced. Woo. Does she heal from the damage of the spell? Yes. To the Morello dot? No. The Morello dot is not part of her spell, so she does not heal from the Morello dot. Riven. Riven is Riven. She's the same Riven. She does a shield. She casts. She only has 20 mana, so she casts a lot. Every third cast, she does that big swipe. It's really powerful. It's really great. The big difference this time is she has good traits. She's not a Blade Master. She's Dusk. 6 Dusk Riven is really good. Common mistake I see people make is trying to build her damage. She's a godly tank. Making her tanky means these shields have even more value. Dusk is already giving you the AP you need from the trait. 4 Dusk Riven with like Gargoyle, Stoneplate, Bramble, Dragonclaw is amazing and never dies. So she's a good champion. Finally where she should be. She was probably the S tier champion for the longest time. So, but now she finally is, I think, close to balanced. And she has counters like Jhin and Vigard, but yeah. What about Mage Riven? Okay, I've tried to explain Mage Riven like 3 times, and every time I explain it, people don't get it. I'm going to try one more time. Let's see if you guys get it. It's a little confusing, but... So here's the way... I closed Paint. Here's the way Mage Riven works, and it's really silly, and it's really dumb. And I wouldn't recommend this, but the way Mage Riven, or the way normal Riven works is I need 20 mana, and when I have 20 mana, I'll do my first cast. And then I need 20 mana, and I'll do my second cast. And then I need 20 mana, and then I'll do my third cast. And that's the big one. Big, boom, yay. Repeat. That's how normal Riven works. Okay? Here's how Mage Riven works. I need 20 mana, and then I do my first dash, and then I instantly do my second dash, and then I need 20 mana, and then I do my third dash, and that's the big one with the slash, and then I'll do another one, which is just the normal one, and then I need 20 mana, and you get the idea. So that's how it works. She just gets to cast twice before she needs mana. I don't think it's that great because you're just saving yourself 20 mana. Woo! But that's how Mage Riven works. Okay, Sejuani. Pretty straightforward. She, at her auto target, sets off a firecracker. It stuns them for 3 seconds. It's a very big AoE stun. Really good at hitting the backline. Yep. Big AoE stun. Very valuable. She has some of the best base stats in the game, by the way. She has 1,000 health, which is really good. Sweet. Hooray. Yeah, that's good. Shen. Shen's pretty cool. 3 good traits. Ninja, Adept, Mystic. Shen dashes past his target, shielding himself, giving himself a shield, and then taunts all enemies for 3 seconds. Now, here's the thing I want to clarify. Taunt in TFT is not taunt in WoW. Taunt in WoW is like, I must auto-attack you. Taunt in TFT says, you're my new target. I can still do everything I would normally do, but you're my new target. So it doesn't cancel spells. It doesn't prevent them from casting. It's just, hey, you're my new target. That's it. So, not quite as powerful as, like, WoW taunt, but still good. Talon. Talon stabs his target, striking them for a percentage of his attack damage. He's another one. Don't build Gunblade. Don't build Jeweled Gauntlet. Does a big chunk of damage. If it kills them, he becomes unstoppable, untargetable, flips, and does even more. So he can go infinite. Very good. So, does Shen's shield still only last the taunt duration? Yes. We might buff it, though, but yes, that's currently how it works. And Shen is mono-locked during his shield, so he also can't go infinite. Whereas Talon can go infinite. Talon is great. And then lastly, we have Warwick. The way Warwick works is he gets a shitload of attack speed, a shitload of free lifesteal, and he starts moving faster and attacking faster. Whee! Every time he kills something, he stops and casts a howl, and he fears everyone nearby, so you can get him to go infinite. Because he has built-in lifesteal, this is why getting him damage is good, because the more damage you do, the more lifesteal you do. This is why items like Titan's Resolve are good, IE is good. GA is good to get him to like not die and then come back, but he's also very susceptible to CC. But yeah, he's a good target. The fear happens around him, so if you build RFC, you are losing that benefit. But he does have so much attack speed and lifesteal that it's worth. And because someone's going to ask, what about Mage Warwick? Well, you get 400% attack speed. So, a lot of attack speed. Okay, and so we come to the finish line. 5 costs. Of course, we still have more to do after that. But 5 costs. Azir. Azir is pretty straightforward. We already talked about his trait with the soldiers. Azir is actually kind of just Nami from set 2. Casts a wave. Everyone hit by the wave is knocked up for a little bit and slowed. Someone in chat says Azir sucks. You're incorrect. Azir is quite good. Very good anti-assassin. Very good spell. Yeah, the more you cast with him, very good. So, yeah, Azir's great. Pretty straightforward, though. Does damage. Yeah. Might need a small buff, but, like, he's pretty good. Ezreal. Ezreal is a reference... Witty loves this, and I'll never let him live this down, but Ezreal is a reference to apparently how Ezreal launched in League of Legends Season 1. But his spell, every enemy hit, it takes damage and has their attack speed slowed by 50%. Every ally hit is healed and has their attack speed increased by 50%. So very powerful spell. So yeah. A lot of stuff. Very good spell. A little expensive to get the spell to cast, but once it does, you just slowed them and you sped up your team. And again, the slow is the same Frozen Heart debuff, does not stack. Things like that. Great. Kayn. Kayn's spell, so first off, we have the 2 forms we should talk about. Red form is basically 50% Omnivamp, so it's like you get a Bloodthirster and a Gunblade for free. Sweet. Shadow is... your spell does 60% extra damage for the first 10 seconds of combat. Might need to buff this one still, but generally if you need to burst something down quick, go Shadow. And yeah, the champ's going to get buffs. One thing people don't realize though is Kayn's spell does Mana Reave the target, just like Sylas. So he is casting Mana Reave on them. The other crazy thing about his spell, and we've shown this in GIFs before, is if he hits a target and he only hits one target, he gets to instant cast the spell again for free. This goes infinite. So for example, if you're on something in the corner with 10,000 health, he will sit there and just ult all day long till the end of time, until they die. So very powerful spell if you have the right items on him. But he also doesn't synergize with Shade well, which is a little tricky. So yeah. Lee Sin. Lee Sin punches the target. Anything that they hit. So, like, let's say I punch a giant Maokai, and the Maokai flies through 5 people on the enemy team. All 5 people on the enemy team are stunned and take damage. The Maokai is stunned for 4 seconds. Everything the Maokai hit is stunned for 1.5 seconds. And they took damage. So that's cool. There's actually a lot of CC. In addition... let's say he punches them and they go off the board. They dead. They dead. GA will not save them from this. QS is supposed to save them from this. If it doesn't, we'll fix it. But QS is supposed to save them. But yeah, he just yeets them right off the board. Big old punch. Good times. So, yeah, he's fun. And RFC works really well also because it'll keep Lee Sin far enough away that he can keep punching him to death. So, good times. Lilia. Lilia is kind of the Lulu of the set. Basically, she casts her spell on 2-3 enemies. And if she's a mage, she'll double cast, so remember that. And while they are asleep, they're basically stunned for 3.5 seconds, so it's a very long stun. If they take this much damage from other sources while they are slept, they will wake up and take that much damage again. If they don't take that much damage, they just wake up and take no damage. So, basically a really cool thing you can do is like put everyone to sleep, and then Ari nuke them, and the Ari nuke will trigger the wake up, which will do even more damage. So that's kind of how Lilia works. And this part does not scale with SP. This part does. So, sweet. Set. We've already talked a lot about Set, but the thing to talk about Set here is his spell Showstopper. So you'll notice it's a % health. This is a % health of the target he grabs. So let's say, for example, he grabs a 1,000 health Ashe. Well, he will deal 400 damage to that Ashe and 250 damage to everyone nearby. Not very good. Let's say he grabs a 6,666 health Galio. He will do 2,400, give or take, damage to that Galio and basically about 1,800 damage to everything nearby. So you want to grab the high health targets. You want to grab the high health targets and slam them down. And keep in mind, this is their max health, not their current health. So if you grab a Galio that's at 5% health, you'll still deal that full, 2,000 health. It's basically the anti-health destroyer. You want to grab big targets. This becomes true damage if he's done sit-ups. Yep. This also scales with AP. So let's say, for example, you were silly and put 2 death caps on him. You would probably be dealing 100% of their health. So how does he choose who to target? It's his auto attack target. So that's it. Yone. Yone is a complicated spell. Yone is... so the way he works is he has, I think it's 100 mana, if I remember off the top of my head. 100 mana. And his spell is this big line strike that is a knockup. It's a knockup and a stun. Okay? And a lot of people don't realize this, but the things he hit reduce their armor and magic resist by 60%. This does stack with other sources. It is its own independent debuff. Meaning, if you have an Ionic Spark and this, you are reducing them by 40% and then 60% more. So that's good. Then in addition, they are marked for death. And kind of like Xin Zhao, if there are any targets on the board that are marked for death, he now has a completely different spell. Okay? That spell now only costs 20 mana, and every time he reaches it, he dashes to the lowest health enemy marked at this target and dealing damage. The damage scales with their missing health. So even though it says 400 and it doesn't look that impressive, it's 400 multiplied by their missing health. And so basically it turns out to be a really good execute. So yeah, it's a lot going on there. But the general idea is big knockup, and then everyone I knocked up, eventually I'll kill off. If I have 2 Yonas, does the percent debuff stack? No. No, it does not. So yeah, kind of a complicated spell, but yeah, pretty good. And then Zillion. Zillion basically says, hey, I'm going to give you a GA, and if you die, you get GA'd. Cool. And when you come back, you get 1,000 health and have some bonus attack speed. So yeah, Zillion's also giving your team attack speed. Zillion's a very powerful champion right now. Good times. Okay, that is all the champions. Items-wise, I'm going to do this real fast. See if there's anything major to cover. Okay. Blue buff, nothing crazy. Again, the thing I'll say with blue buff is it says, even this is worded wrong, because it sets your mana to 20. So, it doesn't work with Enlightened. Chalice no longer is 20 seconds, it just lasts the whole round. Frozen Heart. Hand of Justice. Common thing I get asked about Hand of Justice is, does Hand of Justice stack, or how does it work? Each one is an independent roll. So let's say you have 3 Hand of Justices. It is possible to get 3 damage amps. It is possible to get 3 healing amps. It's possible to get 2 damage, 1 healing, 1 damage, 2 healing. All the different combinations are possible. Ludens, Mage, Redemption, Spear of Shojin. We already talked about this. Procs on hits. Static Shiv. Same thing. It still does the true damage, by the way, when they're CC'd or crowd controlled. Crowd control is defined as anything QS prevents. And this is only on every third basic attack. So Hurricane doesn't proc it, Sharpshooter doesn't proc it, things like that. Let's see here. We already talked about that. Nothing crazy there. Quicksilver got a small buff. Yep. Trap Claw now has an effect so you can see it. Rageblade got a small buff. We already talked about Ionic. Jeweled Gauntlet got a small buff. Oh, if you have a 4-star champion, these items that have scalars do have an increased scalar. For example, I believe Locket of the Iron Solari is 500. I believe Zerat Portal is 5,000, and Static Shiv is 9 bounces. So that's cool. Infinity Edge is unique. It is still unique, so you can only have one Infinity Edge. Giant Slayer is now 1090. Nothing crazy there. Titan's Resolve. This got nerfed back to 25 armor and MR. So yeah. Again, 5,000 if you have a 4-star champion. Sunfire Cape. New item. Basically, it applies the Morello burn to one nearby target every second. It does not stack with Morello. It's the same debuff. So if you have Sunfire, you don't need Morello. Yep. Does Shiv work on Aphelios? Yep, sure does. Yep, nothing crazy there. Dragon's Claw got a little buff. Yep. Okay. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about for sure. Okay. So next, let's talk about the Chosen champions. So Chosen is our new mechanic. Nothing here that shows it. Damn. All right. Chosen is our new mechanic. Whatever. Go away. Okay. Chosen is our new mechanic that allows you to get a powered up champion, and they have 2 of one of their traits activated. It's good times, very powerful champion. Every champion that is chosen gets 200 health. So just straight up for being chosen, you get 200 health. In addition, you get this. And so this is not random. This is the table. Every champion gets an additional bonus as well. So for example, if you have a chosen Garen, he got 400 extra health. If you have a chosen Yasuo, he got 30 extra AD. If you have a chosen Ari, 30% spell power. It's the equivalent of basically 2 items, 2 belts, 2 rods, 2 swords. Mana cost is the weird one, where it lowers their mana cost by 25%. So this should be more clear on the stat sheet in game. Well, I'm doing what I can for you right now. So, but yeah, this is basically the benefit they get. Again, it's not random. So every time you buy a Nami, it's always this benefit. That's how it works. So this, along with the 200, Garen would have 600 total base health. That is correct. This is in addition to the 200. So Chosen Elise, and this is like a good example. Chosen Elise will have 600 extra health, which then scales with her spell. So yeah, good times there. And there's some good combinations, like this is why Chosen Yasuo is so good. 30 AD and his spell is percent AD. Pretty good. 30 AD on a Chosen Jhin whose 4th shot is a multiplier. Really good. So, yeah. Good times. Cool. So that's that. Now, as far as when you can get Chosen, here is the table. So basically, level 1 to 3, you're only going to see 1 cost Chosens. Level 4, you can start seeing 2 cost Chosens. Level 5, you can start seeing 3 cost Chosens. Level 7, you can no longer see 1 cost Chosen, but can start seeing 4 cost Chosen. And then at level 9, you can no longer see 2 cost Chosen, and can start seeing 5 cost Chosens. So, pretty cool to see. You have very clear breakpoints. So you'll see, for example, a lot of my games, I like to get to 7 and then try to hit that 30% 4 cost Chosen. You can hit 9 as well. So, yeah. And the way it works is this is an independent roll. So I'm not going to tell you the exact number, but let's ballpark it and say it's about a 1 in 3 chance. Okay? let's say there's a 1 in 3 chance of hitting a chosen, and it goes, okay, you hit a chosen. Well, you're level 4, so it'll roll the dice and go, okay, you rolled 2 cost. It will put a 2 cost chosen in the middle slot, and then it will do all its other rolls. Okay, so the chosen roll happens first, then it does all its others. Pretty straightforward. Someone asked, would we consider making 5 cost 10% at 8? Nope. We tried that on PB. It was awful. No, thank you. So, someone asked, on Yone with Ionic Spark, is it 100% reduction or 76? It's 76. So yeah, so that's generally how Chosen works. Yeah. I think that is everything that we can go over. Trying to think if there's anything else, any other major questions that get asked. No way of getting 2 Chosens in one roll? No, because like I said, it literally says, do you get a Chosen? If yes, what cost Chosen? Then pick the cost, then go grab from the available pool. So let's say, this is a real exaggeration here, but let's say you're here, you rolled Chosen, you rolled a 5 cost Chosen, and there's only 1 zillion left, 1 set left, and 10 Yones left. Sorry, 3 zillion left, 3 Yones left, 10 zillions left. Then basically, very likely we get Yone in that scenario, but it'll just randomly pull from the pool, same as anything else. So, didn't talk about Stone Plate. Oh, Stone Plate, new item. Basically, each targeting them gains them 12 armor and magic resist. Sort of funny because right now this is actually a good counter to Aphelios, because each Aphelios target also counts as a target. But if you think about it, like 5 people targeting you is 60 armor and 60 MR. That's pretty good for an item, because that's in addition to the 25 provided for the base. So, good item. Chosen champions are not exclusive. So, everyone can have the same Chosen, hypothetically, as long as there's enough champions in the pool. If there aren't 3 of the champion left, can it still show up as a Chosen? Nope. Chosen is taken from the pool? Yep. Does Stone Plate stack? Yep. Sure does. Does Hurricane stack? We already talked about that. Yep. A lot of the stuff we already talked about. So, yeah. I think that is everything. So this concludes sort of my first rundown of PB of Set 4 Fates. If we get any other frequently asked questions that aren't covered in this, I will try to do another video moving forward, but that is about it. So, all right, that's going to do it for this rundown. If you're watching this on YouTube, enjoy live. Take it easy.